Well, Kristine, welcome to Common Sense CEO. Thank you for being here. I was very excited when I started this show because I knew pretty much out of the gate, like the top 10 people I wanted to bring, and you were definitely in that group.
Oh,
So,
thank
so
you.
welcome. Well, it's important to me because, I talk to people about their wealth and wealth management, and in my opinion, your health is your wealth. It's like a huge part of that. I think as I've crawled as slow as possible, closer to 40, and now I'm there. What I've realized is I'm really willing to spend any amount of money to ensure my longevity. And that doesn't necessarily mean just living forever, but living longer well, right? And I think we've all kind of seen in the last 5 years especially that the medical world is maybe not what we thought it was, not all we thought it was cracked up to be. I hope more people are asking more questions. I certainly know I am. I have some major mom guilt for not asking more questions of things with my own kids when they were younger, like vaccines and vaccine schedules and what is it actually doing and what is it not doing. And so I think those are the obvious things that in the last 5 years have really come up and started raising questions for people. So I was very grateful to meet you. Because I tell everyone, you saved my life. And everyone's like, what does that mean? And I'm like, well, I had always been a pretty active, healthy person. And my health pretty quickly declined in a way that I had never experienced. And so I met you at the right time, but introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us who you are and what is your practice and yeah.
Well, thank you, Jamie, for having me. I'm very honored to be here. And believe me, you're not the only one feeling some mommy guilt when it comes to just not having known what questions to ask or that you even should have asked a question. You just trusted.
Right.
You trusted your medical providers. You trusted your kids' pediatricians. Anyway, we'll come back to that topic. But that's a long story. But no, a little bit about my background. This is my second career, actually. I am a family nurse practitioner. I've been practicing for about 7 years. And before that, I spent a short stint as a pediatric nurse in an emergency room in Fort Worth, working in a children's hospital. So that was kind of my nursing, beginning of my nursing experience.
Like hands-on, yeah.
Hands-on, yes. But before that, I am originally from Ohio. My dad was in the Air Force, retired lieutenant colonel. My mother was a homemaker. She raised my younger brother and I, and we were in Ohio till I was in the 6th grade. Then we moved to Texas, where my dad was from San Antonio, and he wanted to come back to his roots. So we moved back here as a family, and I ended up going to high school in Boerne, which is outside of San Antonio. Yeah. Graduated from Texas A&M with a degree in meteorology. My first love, I guess, interest was weather.
Yeah, weather girl.
Yeah, so meteorologist.
Hot weather. Yeah, I know.
Meteorologist, but I did that path took me 20 years into a great career that I loved. I did broadcast television weather as a meteorologist for 20 years, worked in Waco, Austin, and ended my career in Dallas, where I spent probably, when did I even get there? I spent about 15 years in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, worked for the CBS and ABC.
Always weather there, so
lots of weather there.
Kept you busy.
So once I retired from that world, I knew it was time to go when my kids were at a certain age and schedule was too weird and hard for family. I just decided to leave, and the economy, that 2008 dive, it just changed media.
Right.
So
I actually worked in media at the time. I was selling radio, and
you understand.
Yeah, it was rough.
It was rough. So they started to move all of their higher paid talent out and brought in younger, less expensive
Costly.
talent. Yeah. And so things started to change, and I thought it's time to go. And I spent a year thinking about it and praying about it, and decided I'll pursue my next interest, and that was medicine.
Yeah.
So I went back to school, got my prereqs for nursing. I wanted to do the medical degree way, but it just wasn't going to work with my family.
Sure.
My kids were in late elementary, early middle school, and I just
that's right where my kids are, and so I know the schedule is insane. I can't imagine reinventing my career right now with our schedule as it is. Thank God I have the career I have with the flexibility I have, because we are on the go all the time. Every minute of the day is pretty jam-packed. So
Yes,
bravo to you that you managed what you even managed. Yes, maybe not a medical degree, but still your nursing degree.
Yeah. So I did all that basically from home. I did a lot of this online, but with clinicals locally in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And it worked out great. And I stepped into it with the whole grand plan to eventually own my own practice. So I wanted to do that from the get-go. And I don't do well working for others.
I hear you on that one.
I just have my own
This is why we get
mind.
along.
I just
Never been a rule follower.
Yeah, I will follow certain rules, but
Right.
then
Well,
there's just
some rules now, like, which is part of this conversation.
Right.
You start to wonder, what were they written for? Yeah.
and who wrote them.
And right.
So I feel like I ended up in the right place once I was traditionally trained in the nursing realm and went through my master's program in nursing with all the traditional training that you're going to get today as a provider.
Sure.
Right. But I don't know.
But you have a brain.
It was serendipitous, I guess, that I have a good friend that lived not too far from us that knew this nurse practitioner. Her name's Terry Denai, and she is a pioneer in hormone replacement. And I didn't know her, but she ironically had been a fan, watched me on television, and I had written a couple children's books that I signed for her kids. And lo and behold, I'm going through nursing and trying to decide if I want to do PA, physician, or nurse practitioner route. And my friend introduced me to Terry, and then it kind of set my direction for nurse practitioner because I could practice independently. And then learning the hormone route, which fast forward like a couple of years later, I would hit menopause, and I would
Turns out you'd need some of this.
start needing hormones. And then once I was treated with them, I never looked back.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things, same with what we do in our business, is we tell our clients we wouldn't recommend anything for you that we don't do ourselves. Where we invest the majority of our clients' money is where our family's money is. And so I find that interesting when I see different industries or fields where people don't follow that. There feels to me to be a real disconnect where, you know, don't get me wrong, not everybody needs XYZ medication. But if you did, why wouldn't you prescribe to your, patients what you are taking as well? Or why wouldn't you use the same modalities? Or, I know plenty of people that say, well, I do this, but this is what I prescribe to my patients, or this is what I give to my clients, or this. And it's like, there seems to be, a moral disconnect there for me. Now, I get it. It doesn't always line up perfectly because not every human's the same. But it's like, and especially in my world, selling something just to sell something, not because it's in the best interest of your client, but because it's in your best interest, there's something very wrong with that, morally to me. And so what I feel like has really come to a head, especially since the pandemic, is that we're starting to see or question or need to question why are some of these doctors, nurses, PAs, whoever it may be, pushing this? Is it because that's really what they genuinely believe is best? Is it because it's easier to put their head in the sand and say, well, this is what I'm taught, and this is what people are telling me, above me are telling me, or who pays me are telling me, or however it all works are telling me? Or is it because they genuinely believe that is what's best? And the concern I have is whether it's not what best, but best suits you, or you'd rather just put your head in the sand. Those are both two really big problems, right? And so I think it's very rare to find any sort of provider like yourself who, in my opinion, you're genuinely out to take care of your patient, whatever their situation is. There have been times I've come to you with things and you're like, that's not what would work for you. But you could have easily sold it to me, right?
Right.
And the kind of practice that you have is, frankly, with the way health insurance is, probably the way most people are going to start going, which is you are a private provider. You don't take health insurance. It's a subscription, if you will, based access to you, which I use every penny of. Kristine can tell you, I'm texting her, oh, I know you're in Puerto Rico on vacation, but, all the time. And
I need this.
We're also friends, and she's a client of mine, so I might have a little more access. Don't everyone think that you get that access if you decide to call her. But you're not the only one. I have some other friends that have practices that are in the same boat as you, that you've kind of realized health insurance is a racket, probably for most people. Now, what I do believe we all need it, because if something catastrophic happens,
right,
you're in trouble, right? You get hit by a car, you have a heart attack. There are reasons for it. And I do believe there are some medical doctors that are out there doing what their job is. I have not found in the last decade myself personally that the family practice practitioners, the normal run-of-the-mill ones that you're going to find are covered by your health insurance, are doing things necessarily for the right reasons. Now, don't come after me, doctors. This is my own personal experience and many others that I've talked to as well. But where are you at on that? All of that?
Well, kind of back to your, why is medicine the way it is now? Why are certain people followers or take direction when maybe morally they think maybe it's not the right thing to be doing, but they do it anyway?
Right.
I don't know, I've heard this, it might be wrong, but that you can pretty much divide everyone into three categories. There's 30% that are followers. There's 30% that are kind of always on the fence, and then that can be swayed either way. And then there's 30% that lead the way.
Yeah, pioneers.
The pioneers now, that can be positive or negative.
Sure.
And in the world of COVID, those differentiations really started to become very clear.
Right.
And COVID became a moral, it was more of in some ways a moral pandemic.
Right.
Because
I agree.
Our society became so fearful, but they were so lied to.
Right.
And when you mix fears and lie, it's like, what is it? False evidence appearing real is what fear is.
Right.
So that's what I believe.
Right.
But there was a lot of people that did wake up to the fact that
I think it served a purpose for some.
That their reality was not true. What they thought doctors were supposed to be there for them, they learned they weren't, or they were pushing them to do something that they weren't comfortable with. But so was business. They were mandating vaccinations and
it's not just the medical world.
No.
It was eye-opening across the board.
Yes.
Where I think for me personally, it really made me start looking deeper at everything was on the medical side. I already had my economic beliefs, my business beliefs. I would even say for the most part, my political beliefs. I think what was eye-opening was how much all of that is controlled by each other. Like they shouldn't be that connected, and it was.
No, big pharma and government, it's become a technocracy,
right,
where big pharma has with technology have come in and basically they've overrun the medical schools.
Right.
So all of our new doctors are being trained under one, kind of the Rockefeller medicine mindset.
Right.
And what that's done is it's completely pushed out all the natural therapies. They purposely did this back in 1900, I don't know what year it was, but it was early 1900s when chiropractors and naturopaths, they were the ones people went to.
Right. I mean, there's and I say this, I'm Native American. The witch doctor's got a lot more, or the head, what's the head medicine guy of the Indian tribes? He's not a witch doctor. He's a...
Oh, Lord.
Shaman, maybe.
That
but
sounds
even all of those,
shaman.
All of those guys healed way more than coming in and sticking people with whatever vaccines and shots and whatever else.
It's just changed the way that medical education now. It's like they've indoctrinated,
schools,
decades of doctors and physicians to think one way, and then we've suddenly got this peer-reviewed medicine mindset where everything has to be science-based on journals and studies, and that's great. But so many of these journals and studies are they're influenced by special interests,
Right.
or there's money behind them.
Right.
That is, it's not real science.
Right.
It's designed
Science.
to sell drugs,
Yeah.
and push people toward therapies that don't work. I mean, we've got cures for cancer.
Right.
They're out there,
Right.
but they're hidden.
Right. There's no way
Right.
you don't
No.
at this point. We are way too smart.
No.
And it's going to take an Elon type person in the medical field to say, I don't give a crap what all the rest of you are saying or doing. I don't care if I ruffle your feathers. I don't care if I piss you off. I'm going to go save your astronauts because you couldn't do it, government. I'll do it.
Yeah.
And it's going to take someone like that in the world of medicine to say, I'm going to go ahead and show everyone the cure for cancer. I don't care if you get pissed off, government, who's also being controlled by, the big pharma and all of that.
So the problem, that's a beautiful thing. I would love to see that person
Right.
show up, but the problem is many of those people have shown up,
And
but
then
they've been the small person, and usually they're eliminated.
I was going to say, and then Hillary takes care of them.
They're eliminated.
Yeah.
They are disappeared.
Yeah, they are disappeared. That's a good word for it.
They are-
Suicided.
Whether it's, and some people are just like with Peter McCullough, he came out early.
Oh, yeah.
and he was completely torn apart
Yep.
by his own hospital system because he went against the narrative.
Yep.
But he is now one of the leaders in, and working in what I hope to be a new way of medicine. Like there's a new,
Since COVID, really,
yeah,
a new
all
push.
in the last 5 years,
Right.
there's been a coming together of minds that have been censored, and they've been politically chastised. They've been targeted,
Right.
in all kinds of
And
horrible
lost
ways.
everything that they've worked for
Lost
however
everything
many years. Yes.
because they told the truth,
Right.
and they fought the system.
Right.
Now they've all of us, I would say myself included, we found each other.
Good.
And there is a big society of us that are trying to pave the way to real dialogue and,
Right.
and natural therapies and showing people, if they'll look, that there are cures for this, that, and the other. I mean, I'm still discovering these things myself, and it's so exciting. I just wish I had more hours in the day.
Yeah.
Because I'm reading new things and learning new things. I try this stuff on myself.
Right.
I mean,
I know. I send you podcasts all the time. I'm like, have you taken this? Can I take
Yeah.
it? What's this? Let's take this together.
Yeah, your peptide
Yeah.
podcast was fantastic, and I had never heard of that guy. But
Oh, yeah.
he was fabulous, and he
Yes.
just reassured in all the training I've had that, yes,
Right.
I'm on the right path. It's like this new world is coming around. It's just the majority of the population is just now beginning to see that,
Right.
that they want that or
Well,
that they
and,
need that.
and those podcasts like that and what we're trying to do here just to give people access, because I fought the podcast, not obviously talking's never been my problem, but listening for years. Everyone would be like, oh, do you listen to this podcast? And they're all listening to like, what is all the murder mystery and all those true crime
True crime.
podcasts and all that. And I'm like, I don't have time to read a book. And if I do, I'm going to read a fiction book for my brain to go the other way. But I've now jumped, if I'm listening to a podcast, it is educating me on something, or it's giving, not everything, like, again, a lot of it might be opinion or their own experience. But if somebody has a story to tell that could be similar to my own and could help me, then sharing is the most amazing thing that they could do for any of us, right? Like you said, if you had the cure for cancer, wouldn't you share it? Well, I would and you would, but we know there's a lot of people out there who wouldn't. But that's the thing that happened with I think a lot of us, like we said, is COVID happened. We start to see some things. We're told one thing. Some of us held back because we were like, you know what? I'm not going to jump on this bandwagon. We've started to see the effects of the people who didn't and did jump on the bandwagon, whether they want to admit it or not. There's been a lot of health issues from it.
I see it all the time.
Yeah. And then I start to go back and, you and I have even kind of pieced together one of the things that I deal with since having my son. I break out in hives every day. Makes no sense. No idea why. The only thing that makes sense is the timing of it. And as we started to peel back the onion and think, well, what could it have been? We've tried to address this. It's not that. We've tried to address this. It's not that. And the only thing that makes sense is they make you get the DTaP vaccine right before you have a baby. And I've now, since talking to you a little bit about it, I've done some research. It's basically the most garbage vaccine on the planet.
That next to the Gardasil vaccine.
Oh,
for HPV.
HPV for your infant. Thank God that was not around yet when my my children were born. But I'm like, what 3-day-old baby is going to get HPV?
Well, right. And then even Hep B.
Or that's what the Hep B is the one I'm thinking.
Yeah, HPV is the human papilloma for the girls.
The Hep B is what they want to now give babies out of the womb.
Well, so they've moved that up because it used to be
12.
Well, I thought it was 3 months.
Oh, no. Now it's 3 days old. They're trying to give it.
Well,
yeah.
See, it's just, the vaccine industry, people don't realize is so, it's basically it is the main crux of modern medicine.
Right.
Everything is about what kind of vaccine can we give to prevent this or stop that disease, when actually these vaccines are creating disease.
Right.
And they know that.
So
then they can make drugs to counteract the problems they cause from the vaccines. So your allergy issues with your son, your allergy issues since your son's birth, those could be vaccine related. Right. But now you're needing to figure out what therapies you can use to stop your hives from coming back. So that's something you have to deal with chronically.
Well, and so when we had my friend Lindsay in here on the first episode, whose son has the brain injury, this was the day that I stopped and my jaw hit the floor and I started to question everything, so it was already questionable enough. COVID happened 2020. Her son had his injury in 2021. Early 2022, they're going to get therapy in New Orleans. And she's talking to the doctor who does this. They're doing hyperbaric chamber, literally using oxygen. Talk about the opposite of big pharma. And she's talking to him about his background. And he said, I used to work for a very large pharmaceutical company. I was like their head scientist or whatever. And he said, I walked into the office. It was really at the lab one day on a Monday. And they had painted a mural on the wall that said, we are in the business of repeat customers. Oh my God. And he said, and that's the day I left because I took a Hippocratic oath as a doctor. And that is not helping people. That is not heal. We're meant to heal people. And what we're creating is something just keeping them. They feel a little better, but we're still keeping them just sick enough to where they have to count on us forever. And so that takes me back to I started thinking about my own life and my own history, which is, to give a somewhat short version. At 7 years old, my grandmother had been diagnosed prior to this with thyroid cancer. They took out part of her thyroid. It didn't work. They took out all of her thyroid. And somewhere along the way, some brilliant doctor said, this is probably hereditary. Let's take y'all over to MD Anderson in Houston, and we're going to do some tests on this cancer that she had, and then we're going to start testing all your family. We're in like a book at MD Anderson about it, blah, blah, blah. I'm 7 at the time. My brother is 11. And the test that they would give us, the blood test, was 11 minutes long. And for 9 of those 11 minutes, they're pumping you full of, I don't even know what it is, some sort of, it's not medicine, some sort of something that had to go into the blood so that they could test for this, allegedly. They pull 9 huge vials of blood. They throw away the first 4. Your body, you feel like it's 400 degrees. You want to puke the entire time. You're white, you're sweating, it's miserable. And my mom had to watch her 7 and 11-year-old go through this 3 times before finally she said, what's the option here? Like, I can't watch my kids suffer like this anymore. What are our options? And they said, well, it could just be that they're growing up and going through, getting closer to puberty. My brother specifically, at this point, he's now 12. He was like, but the numbers are changing a little bit to where it could also be that by March, your son could have full-blown thyroid cancer. Good Lord. So your option is keep doing these tests every 6 months and watch them suffer, or just take their thyroid out. Okay, well, doc, thyroid, it's an organ. Do we need that? Like, what happens if I take it out? Oh, it's fine. They'll just take a pill every day for the rest of their life. And, again, that's the doctor. You don't question doctors in 1993. You just think they're here to help. They don't want to see my children suffer like this. They don't like seeing this. So that's fine. It's just, insurance will cover it. It's a quick surgery. they're only in the hospital 2 nights, take their thyroid out. The pill's only this big. My 8-year-old can take a pill this big every day for the rest of their life.
Simple fix.
Simple fix.
Mm-hmm.
And
havoc it caused.
Right. And after hearing what Dr. Harch had told her regarding me, we're in the business of repeat customers, that light bulb went off and I was like, holy crap. This is not a COVID problem. This racket has been going on for years. And that's just about the time, and James can put up the photo, that I was looking like this, where I had my entire life, I have been 5'5" and 125 to 134 pounds, my whole life. I could work out and lose a pound. If I ate a cheeseburger, you could tell. If I ran a mile, you could tell. That's how my body worked. I was very blessed in that way. And the day I turned 35, I was in Cancun, Mexico. At 2 a.m., I woke up on my 35th birthday. And I thought I'd been poisoned by the poison liquor that was going around killing people in Mexico.
Yeah.
Everyone's asleep. And I'm like, it's happening. I'm going to be on the news. I'm going to be one of the ones dying. I had 2 margaritas. What's going on? Whatever. And I feels like a full-blown panic attack. Well, come to find out, if you're over supplemented on thyroid medication, levothyroxine, which is the garbage I was on at the time, you feel like that. You feel like you're having an anxiety attack. I had no anxiety. I had a massage that day. It was literally my birthday. God bless the people who do have, depression and anxiety and all of that, but that's not me. I'm very lucky. So I knew something was wrong. So I went to my medical doctor, who'd been my doctor for 10 years. And I said, Doc, something's not right. I've gained 35 pounds. I'm now 165 pounds. I'm working out every day. I'm staying on a
picture right here. You're 165.
I'm 168 pounds probably in that photo. That was the highest I got to. But on my 35th birthday was right before this, but I had started to gain weight. And I was like, something's not right. I don't feel right. And, he's like, oh, well, did you take 2 pills or something? You are over supplement on your thyroid. I said, no, my hormones probably changed. I'm 35. That happens. Whatever.
Starts to change.
Yeah. Starts to change. So he changes my amount, whatever. The weight continues to pile on until this point, which is October of 2022, which is when I met you. Yeah. And I told him, I said, I slept 9 hours last night. And it physically hurt to get out of bed this morning. Like, something's not right. He's like, oh, it's hard to get out of bed? You must be depressed. Let's take this test and see if you need to get on antidepressants. And that was the day that was the day that I was like, I'm done here. I always loved him because he was so analytical and scientific. And he was one of the ones that taught me, if your thyroid's off, your ADHD will go up. So those two play parts with each other. And it always made sense and this and that. And I don't know if he was on the way out of retirement or what, but there was just no care, it felt like. And so I was at a point, and we'll talk about this in a minute too, where I met you, we started talking, and I was like, I don't know what this new thing Ozempic is, but put me on it. I don't care. I can't, nothing else works. I've done keto. I've stopped drinking. I'm eating, like, we went out to dinner and y'all were like, oh, should we order dessert? I was like, I can't have any. You were like, you can have a bite of dessert. I was like, I really can't. Nothing's working right now. And so fast forward, and we'll talk about what we talked about, but that was my experience, only to find out my medical doctor wasn't doing what was best for me. He was doing, okay, well, you land within this really big range, even though you're way over here on the crappy end of it. So you're normal. I'm not going to do anything to help you, even though normal is not optimal. That has been probably the statement I've lived by now for the last 3 years. Normal does not mean optimal. And so I met you, which was like perfect timing because I was at my wit's end. I was ready to do anything. And you said, well, let's first look at this thyroid thing because it's a problem. So if you don't mind, because you're the scientist here and you explain it pretty well. I mean, you made it where I could understand it and no one ever had before. But I think I've run into many friends who I've sent to you since then that have the same problem. Your thyroid, they all are on levothyroxine. You taught me this, right? Like, it's one of the most prescribed.
It's like one of the number 1 medications next to statins.
Right.
Prescribed annually.
Which
makes them
is
billions
crazy.
of dollars.
I just thought I was this one unique person with no thyroid. Turns out everybody's on it.
No.
And a lot of people's thyroids start to fail or slow down or have issues. And it matters. It's an important It's an important gland more than people realize. So will you talk a little bit about what levothyroxine is compared to what I was dealing with? Because it's also interesting because I have no thyroid at all.
Right.
That's the last
You're
thing I should have
unique
been on.
in that
Yeah.
you have no thyroid. Most people have theirs. It's just poorly functioning.
Right.
And there's a zillion reasons for that.
Right.
We
Right.
can talk about toxic food and
Right.
plastics and all these hormone disruptors that we are constantly being bathed in every day. But for you, and for anyone on levothyroxine, it's also called Synthroid.
Right.
It is synthetic T4. Okay. So T4 is a prohormone. It's not even the real thyroid hormone.
Correct.
It's produced by the thyroid, but it's converted to the active hormone T3. So we look at a certain lab in your blood work, free T3, and that truly tells us how much active thyroid hormone you've got circulating. And that is what your body will use for energy and fat burning and visceral fat burning and for your brain to function and for your reproductive system to work. I mean,
Right.
thyroid hormone is crucial to life. You
Right.
can't be without it. So when it's wrong, so much in your life
I
goes
used to
wrong.
joke with everyone, if
Yeah.
we ever get stranded on a deserted island, eat me first, because if I don't have my thyroid, I'm going to go anyway. So go ahead.
Oh my gosh.
But go ahead.
Well, so the thing about, thyroid is it's one of those hormones that women seem to be the most sensitive to.
Sure.
So we're the ones that blow up first when our thyroid is low. And there's a difference, like you said, between true hypothyroidism, which you have because it's surgical.
Right.
You have surgical,
Thanks, doc.
surgically induced hypothyroidism, but then someone else may have truly hypothyroid where this other lab level TSH is above a certain magic number. But what is most important to know is that every single lab out there has this range that they will print out on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone within that decade of life, there's usually a 10-year range for that. You're 35 years old, for example, you're being compared with other 30 to 40-year-olds that are usually not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So they're putting ranges of blood work that
Yeah.
are usually for not even a healthy person at that age. And then they're comparing you with that, and then there's your number. So your number falls in that range. Oh, you're normal.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're not always
Right.
normal. You're usually in there, but if you're on the low end of that, for example, a free T3 level, you feel like crap.
Yes.
You've got all the symptoms and the doctor still won't treat you.
Right. Because it was normal.
That's not the way I was trained. And once the light went on for me and I was trained properly and that we should be living optimized.
Right.
But what is optimal? When you have this lab paper that says this is normal.
Right. The number came back green.
So
it was
even
fine. Yeah.
for me, I will have a patient that I've got optimized and her level might be 4.5. Let's just put 4.5 on the map. And that is going to show high on the paper, but she's still not optimal, even though she's high. I push her to 6 or 7. That's where she needs to be. But we don't know that till we try.
Right.
And we titrate up on thyroid hormone. So we work in titration and we work on finding the dose that's right for you or for her because your dose is not going to be her dose.
Right. And
But they're
fine-tuning it.
usually very close.
Right.
So once you start to understand that, but that's something that's taken me years to learn with the way I've been trained and actually practicing
Right.
medicine.
Right.
Like I won't say experiment, it's not the right word, but it's like my patient and I are on the journey together and I'm safely going to take them to an optimal place and get their hormones back where they should be.
Well, and you're very good about, following up isn't even the best word. And again, we obviously communicate quite a bit, and I don't know if that's normal for everyone, but at the same time,
You probably get a little more attention
yeah,
than most.
well, I demand that.
That's okay.
Naturally, I demand
That's
that a little
okay,
bit.
though.
That's on me. But
No.
But I mean, that's my thing is like I have always joked. I'm like, I don't want to live till 100 because I didn't want to be unhealthy and sick and not enjoying life. But for me, the way I have felt over the last 2.5 years with realizing what optimal is compared to what I was dealing with, I would love to live to it. That's why I say my whole mindset has shifted to a life of longevity. And in my mind, longevity means living well, not just living to live forever.
That's exactly kind of my mantra. It's
Right.
like you want to live well.
Right.
And there are so many things fighting against us doing that.
It's wild.
So we're constantly, it's really kind of a constant uphill battle. But
Sure.
but if you can get the foundational things right,
Right.
then you can pick at some of these other things.
Right.
And you can, like putting icing on the cake. You get the cake right, and then you can add the icing, like the peptides and the extra things that we do to.
Yeah, I mean, now when I go in, I'm like, this is a little whatever. It's not like it's going to kill me if I don't take, the medicine that helps make sure I don't have acne.
Right.
But I don't want acne, so
Right.
I'd like to take that. So we're now at the fine tuning stage, if you will, because we know, if something major happening, we know what the cake, we know, oh, there's not enough flour in the cake. Let's go fix that or whatever. We know how to figure that out. But I mean, I think that's the thing. So many people are walking around so incredibly unhealthy, and they may not know it because they may not look it. You could still be thinnish and fittish, and
There's a lot of skinny fat out there.
that and even like I was,
Or just plain obesity.
I wouldn't even say I was unhealthy in the way I was living. I was making a point to work out 4 days a week, well, and I'm athletic and competitive and all that. So I enjoyed that. I was making a point to eat well. I was making a point to do these things. If you put me on a normal lab test, I showed up as normal and healthy across the board, but I didn't feel good.
Yeah.
There's a misconception. And so all these people, I talk to people all the time. They're like, well, my doctor says I'm normal, but for some reason I can't lose weight and I can't sleep and I feel like crap. And I'm like, quit going to your doctor. Find a new provider. I don't even like to use the word doctor. Some of them are doctors that are holistic providers, or what was the word that we like to call? You say you use your the way you practice is different than
I would say that I'm integrative, but I'm also always looking at alternative ways to treat, because there's so many alternative therapies out there that might be considered quackery, but they're not.
I was going to say it's not woo woo. It's not like we're going in and you're like, okay, we're going to rub this lotion on your head and it's going to work. And no, it's not like
these were tried and true things and simple things.
It is science.
Things.
A peptide is science.
Well, and even household things like baking soda.
Right.
That was commonly used for flu and colds back in the 30s. You give yourself 3 teaspoons of baking soda a day, and usually you're better within a couple of days. So literally, it's those types of things that have been erased. Now we have to give you a drug or give you a shot, because they're going to make some money. And it's like you said, it's guaranteeing constant business.
Right.
Making people sick,
Right.
keeping the cures hidden. People are totally distracted these days, right? We have 1,000 things coming at us at once, between social media and internet and our phones and blah, blah, blah. And, you
don't even talk to your doctor anymore. You just text them on telemed.
Yeah, I know. And there's some good in that, and there's things that aren't so good. But it's just, it is disheartening to see so many. I have a 37-year-old stepdaughter who is a pediatrician. And this is hard to share, but we no longer have a relationship, and I've raised her since she was 5.
Right.
Because we are diametrically now opposed, and she thinks I'm a quack.
A woo-woo quack.
Woo-woo quack.
Yeah.
And she is, while she's giving shots to babies and believes
Hep B shots.
Believe the whole COVID narrative. Yeah. And, I won't back down on the fact that, I believe she's broken her Hippocratic oath.
Right.
And I've told her that.
Right.
But because of that, we don't have a relationship.
Yeah, I get it. And it's, I'm sure it is hard for her, because to your point, what they've been trained in, especially in the last, what I would imagine at least the last 32 years, because I feel like my first experience of all this was at 8 years old, is, to your point, what's going to help the pharmaceutical world, not so much the world as a whole and our health.
Yeah.
And I am grateful for people like, Bobby Kennedy getting in there and saying, like, we don't even have to start with medicine. Let's start with like just the crap we've been putting in our food, and the difference that makes for people, which is huge. And, you mentioned it. So the podcast, again, I'll talk about it again, is the Huberman podcast with all the peptides and things like that. I'm grateful for people like him that are putting these things out there to help try to educate people. But we talked about it again. Dr. Langley was on the one time, and she was the one that said, like, everyone just thinks because it's in a book and it's called science or it's called math, it is. She's like, but there's no finite in anything. You know, we think 1 + 1 is 2, but if you have one wad of gum and one wad of gum and put it together, it's still one wad of gum. And she was like, and that's how I feel about health and science. She was speaking about the fact her mom had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. That's like a death sentence, typically.
But it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. And she said that. She said, I told the people in her, she was in like an assisted living, nobody negative can be in. Anyone who goes in has to be approved by me, because she was like, I'm going to have a very positive outlook with her. She said, I bought her really expensive golf clubs. She's like, we never used them. But she asked me, why'd you buy those? She goes, because we're going to go golfing. And she just convinced her of this. And she said 3 months later, she goes, maybe it was that, maybe it wasn't, but the cancer was gone. And she didn't do any chemo and she didn't do any of this. And so she talks through there. And there, she did some holistic things with her and some other things, but, you know, kind of talks through that you don't have to be the sample. You know, there, if it's okay, my doctor said to me when I went to him before I meeting you, my brother had gone through the same thing. And he'd ballooned up right about 35. And he went to his doctor and they put him on Armour, which is a pig thyroid. It's not synthetic. It's pig, but at least it's not synthetic. And he dropped the 25 pounds in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, it all fell off. So I walk into my doctor and I said, Doc, you know, my brother had this same situation.
Can I try this Armour?
Can I try Armour?
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, well, you know, so clearly Armour wasn't pushing him or paying him, because he said, well, you know, it only really works in like 1 in 10 people. And I was like, well, guess what? The DNA would suggest I might be one of the 1 in 10 since it worked for my brother. Can you try it? And he wouldn't. And then you get me on an active thyroid supplement. And guess what?
Well, you're on thyroid hormone. You are on the same thing, but a compounded version as Armour.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
You're on a natural desiccated
That's
thyroid.
what I mean. It's not synthetic.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
And so from that, my health, you know, I dropped the weight, the energy. I can now sleep 6.5, 7 hours and have 10 times more energy than I had. And there's other things that I'm taking and we're doing as well. But, you know, it's all part of it. And he wasn't even willing to entertain. It was, you have your 30-minute appointment, you check in, I look at your labs, you're in the normal range, see you later.
Yeah.
Next.
I see this day in and day out with all of my patients. They usually are coming to me when they've heard that story 3 or 4 times. They're so frustrated and they're so depressed, and they literally start to cry in my office. They're just like, oh my God, so that's what's wrong with me. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with you. You just have an imbalance. You're low on this, and this. Let's support you and let's figure out the source of this issue. And usually we can figure out most things. But they come just so disenchanted. They can't. And when I try to explain that this is what your doctor is seeing, and I'm not blaming these doctors. I think some of them it's true cognitive dissonance.
Right.
They know they're not doing the best they can,
but they don't know what to do.
I don't know why I think because it's so fast paced now, and it's quantity over quality. Right. And they're pushed and they're burned out.
I definitely felt
they're burned out.
Like next.
Yeah, it's cattle call. It's cattle call.
Yeah.
So they're just grateful that I spend an hour and 15 minutes with them and we walk through everything, and then we come up with a plan, and things have to be layered sometimes because it can be a lot.
Yeah.
If you come in a hot mess, it's going to take me a little while.
Well, I came in, I mean,
You're kind of a hot mess.
I was a hot mess.
It was very
But I was also very motivated.
You were very motivated.
And so I was like, throw it all at me right now. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, if I'm telling one on myself, you know, I gained the weight. I was at that 168. That was October of 2022 when I met her. We went to an event together. We came back home. I went to see her like late November. We came up with a plan. We started titrating things in. And I would say we hit the right, you know, doses and everything late January. And from late January through May of 23, all the weight came off. And because of that, I was like, well, guess what? I worked my butt off for 3 years and for a lot of years, and it didn't do anything. But now I look and feel pretty good. So, I mean, if I'm telling one on myself, I haven't worked out even third as much as I was when I was 168 pounds. But I have more energy and I'm moving more and I'm doing more and I don't sit at my desk all day. I make myself get up and I do things and I'm active and I coach softball and I play. I mean, I am all those things, but I couldn't even do that before.
Yeah. Well, you've heard probably a lot about the new talk now is a lot about mitochondrial health. I don't know if you've heard that catchword.
Yeah.
But it's not really a catchword. Mitochondria is your energy, your batteries, and every cell in your body, you've got millions and millions of these little mitochondria that are just depleted.
Right.
And that's chronic fatigue. And and we're really starting to learn more about the importance of feeding the mitochondria. So we're doing the things like the methylene blues and the NADs and the things like that are
just
helping.
ordered methylene blue and I haven't started it yet because literally it came yesterday, but I feel like I need to, so I have.
Methylene blue is it's wonderful. And then you want to match that with red light therapy. You want to bring in all these things that are supplemental to each other, and people are going to go like, huh, what's methylene blue? And you're going to say, well, it's a fabric dye. You're going to say like, what?
I might look a little purple later. But,
it'll turn your tongue blue and you might, but there are these things that I've been learning about over the last. COVID was an opportunity for me to really do a deep dive. I took a step back just like you. Nothing seemed right about this.
Right.
And it takes discernment and you just have to kind of go, wait. But I was raised that way.
And actually discernment's a spiritual gift. And that's one that our pastor has told me before. It's funny because we jokingly call my husband the judge because I love him, but he will judge you. Like first glance, he will judge you. I say there is a difference between the gift of discernment and judgment. And a person can walk in a room and pretty quickly I'm able to tell their motivation. Not so much who they are as a person. We all screw up. We all make mistakes. I'm not judging your actions, but who they are as a person pretty quickly. And so I think it's a gift and not everyone has it. And that's the problem is there are people who, if you tell them, they're going to believe it.
Right. And that's part of my family. They think that way. They're just, they believe in government. They believe in authority. But
we already said we're not always rule followers.
No, they just believe no matter what. That's the way they were raised. That's and it is how you're raised.
Sure.
Because for example, my mother and my brother we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
They question everything. So. But I wish more people would because they're being lied to about so many things from history to medicine to, I don't know,
what's in our food.
Look what they just discovered under Giza, under the pyramids.
No kidding. There's a
2-kilometer deep city underneath.
That's wild. 2 kilometers.
2 kilometers
with
beneath.
The craziest.
Did you hear what they said today? About the Shroud of Turin?
Oh.
No.
They have a new X-ray technology that they use, and now they're saying it's dating back 2,000 years instead of 1,300 years.
So, and then
they're slow rolling all this.
And then you really think we don't have a cure for cancer sitting somewhere? Like, that's
the cures are
and
there.
And previously classified documents about the Ark of the Covenant have been released.
Well,
apparently it's in Saudi Arabia.
I'm glad, and I'm hopeful that we do have some. There's a lot of positive. There's a vibe right now that it kind of feels like there's change happening, and there's like an energy shift, and they even say the poles shift, right? The poles of the earth shift, and these cause other things. Like humans have been around millions of years longer than we think.
Right.
Apparently, there's been societies of humans that are much more advanced than our version.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
But then you look around and you're like, no, we're definitely devolving. There's a kid in my son's middle school who's pooping on the floor and wiping it on the walls. So maybe we are devolving after all. It's like, I mean.
It could be the pharmaceutical.
That's the powers that
It is. And what's in our food.
Well, whatever you believe is driving the evil in the world.
Right.
Whatever that is, those people. There are an elite group of people that are basically trying to keep us stupid and sick and slaves so we can keep paying taxes and they can control everything. And there is a group out there that's doing this.
Oh, sure.
And it's up to us
to fight back,
to stand up. And the thing is they also have the power to hide the truth.
Right.
And they've done a really good job.
Really.
So we have to try to, and the truth is slowly coming out, but I wish it could come out faster.
Sure.
Because people have been harmed the last 5 years has maimed and killed a lot of people.
A lot.
And a lot of children that will not be healthy growing up.
Right.
So if new mothers and fathers now can know the truth and not vaccinate their kids, I'm sorry, I never thought I'd say, but
Right.
no vaccinations, they will raise a healthy generation of kids because DNA is being damaged by these.
I'll see if James can find the clip, or I'll see if I can find it, but it's really funny. Yeah, so I saw it on Instagram, and it said how media used to show the measles compared to today. And there's a clip of the Brady Bunch, and little Bobby Brady, the middle child, comes in and, I got sent home from school, Mom. I have the measles. And they're like, oh, well, you do have red dots and do you have a fever? 101.1. Okay. And then it flashes forward, because they're all living together. So now all 4 kids are in the bedroom together. And Cindy Brady's like, Chet, all right, last kid of the group has the measles. Looks like all the Bradys have had the measles. And then all of a sudden Alice sticks her head out and she's got red dots. She's like, not all of us. And then she gets the measles and everyone's laughing and we all go about our life. And then it flashes to today and it's like CSI. Or and it's the lady in New York with, I think, Special Victims Unit, right? Whatever that is. And, and she's like, I don't watch their shows, but it's like, there's a measles outbreak in New York in one of the schools and it's hitting close to home. And my grandson, and he's running through the hospital and everyone's dying. And when I was like, oh my gosh, like how far have we fallen that if one person gets the measles, we're worried that it's an entire outbreak and we're all going to die from it.
We all had the measles. We had chickenpox parties when I was
Yeah,
young.
parties
We
for
did.
it.
There were chickenpox parties. But it's like those things don't typically kill a child.
Right.
And they will get through it.
Well, and the one that just happened, they found out it's not what killed that child.
No, it did not kill that child. But that's what the media will lead you to believe. And they'll promote that fact to get you to take the vaccine.
That's right. And on the same podcast, he had a scientist on maybe last week. And we were talking about, that's where they were talking about how now they give the vaccine at like 2 and 3 days old for Hep B, which is insane. And the Huberman, I wouldn't say he's anti-vaccine, but he's like us. He's like, now I'm starting to pump the brakes a little bit. We all need to whatever. And so this doctor's on and he said, here's the deal. I don't care if it's the COVID. He's like, I do care, but I don't care if it's COVID vaccine. I don't care if it's the measles vaccine. I don't care what it is. If your child has a cough, a sniffle, is even slightly elevated fever, they shouldn't get any shot ever.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter what vaccine it is. The point of it is to go into a healthy body and your healthy body figure out how to fight it off. And if you don't do that, it's going to exacerbate whatever's going on. So then I think of someone like my mother who was guilted into getting one of the COVID vaccines. She didn't even get the second one. She was guilted into it while she was sick and was in the middle of a allergy, almost bronchitis sickness, but got the shot because she wanted to please people. And she now has the worst asthma. She never had asthma my entire life. She's 67 years old. And in the last 4 years, we can't go anywhere without her having to go to the ER for breathing treatments because it exacerbated that to the point where now she has chronic asthma and it's ultimately one day likely going to kill her.
Well, we've been working on trying to get that. There's alternative therapies that I've introduced.
Right. To try to help
to help her, that has gotten her through a lot of rough patches. So I'm hopeful that therapy will continue to work to help counteract the damage that's been done to her lungs.
Well, good.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that.
So,
but I mean, that's what, but what I found so important that his point was it doesn't matter. Even if you believe in every vaccine out there, even if you are doing a lighter schedule, but you believe in some of them or you do want to do some of them, that's all fine and good. But your child needs to be at 100% before you stick them with anything.
Well, the thing is, what people don't realize is that the CDC has purposely not done studies comparing fully vaccinated children and their health outcomes as they age to non-vaccinated children.
Right.
They don't do those studies.
Right. Well,
why not?
Because there's chronic illness at the end of one and not the other.
Correct.
I don't want to know the answers.
Right.
Right. And so there's been some, smaller studies done by other parties outside the CDC, but the CDC is really not what you think it is. It's more of a private organization that is supported by Big Pharma.
Right.
It's really not our government's.
No.
It's disguised as such, but
well,
it's
and,
really
and the
not.
only real connection to the government was that the government was also being funded by Big Pharma. So that's where they were all three connected. But
Right.
yeah.
I'm hoping RFK Jr. will get in there, and he's got a big. He's one of those that I think he's going to be blunted, unfortunately, because there's so much political, and there's so many forces that are going to try to stop him from doing what I think he'd like to do.
Right.
He's been very vocal about, and we all love him for what
Right.
he talks about and the things that he wants to do.
But will he be able to do it?
Right.
Right.
I worry about that. I hope so. I just wish Trump would be a little bit more, I don't want to get on politics, but I was
Right.
going to say I admire what Trump is doing, but I wonder why he still promoted warp speed the way he did, like
Right.
with the vaccinations.
Well, because
When we've seen the
last
damage
time-
they've done.
Well, and because last time he was in office, he didn't know any better. I would also recommend.
he was advised poorly. That's
right.
true.
If you, Gary Brecka is another Ultimate Human podcast is another really great one, and he actually had Laura Trump on a couple weeks ago, his daughter-in-law, and there's a portion of that where she speaks to that. She says, because she said, "Thank God he didn't win in 2020. Thank God." And he said, "Well, why do you say that?" And she said, "Because none of this would have come to light.
Right.
He would have had the same crappy advisors. It would have been not that he didn't do some good from 16 to 20. She was like, but it was the most eye-opening, pull open the curtains, show everyone what's really going on 4 years ever. And now he knows it. He took him that 4 years to get the right people in place to really do what he thought he was going to do the first time around." And she said, had he won, none of this would have happened.
Yeah.
And
you
it
have
was
to show the people.
right.
And the people had to be shown.
And I'm glad they were. And I
Yeah.
think at least
But
a
the
portion
harm-
of them were.
The harm that's been done too is like,
yes.
oh my gosh, how are we going to get past all this? But we will.
Right.
We will.
And
Yeah.
and I hope that it can continue on. I am going to shift a little bit because this is a topic I know people like. So not only do you help people like me who have chronic medical things going on, but you all, let's shift to the whole talk on peptides and what works and whatnot. And the first thing I want to talk about is the GLP-1s, because again, that was not necessarily why it came to you. We were just having a conversation. Yeah. And actually, I think even at that point, the whole Ozempic idea and all that was pretty new-ish.
It was.
But somebody had told me about it, and I was like, I don't care, I'll get on it. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Again, let's not just fix the symptoms. Let's get to the root of the problem, which I'm grateful for, and we did that. But I personally believe if you were someone who you do have diabetes especially, or chronic anything, or even if you just need a jump start, I tell everyone, I'm like, go get the Mounjaro, go get the Ozempic, go get whatever GLP-1 you need. Because at the end of the day, if it makes you feel better and it makes you healthier, who cares? Like, again, your health is your wealth. Whatever way you have to get there, as long as it's health, being careful with it. I don't mean go take however much or whatever else. But I'm a believer of like, get people healthy. So to your point, get the cake baked so we can take care of the rest. And so I know you do a lot of different peptides. So will you talk about all the different ones that you, not every single one, but all the ones you often.
The big ones?
Yeah, the ones that people are looking for, the ones that people maybe don't know they need. I know I am on NAD+. We mentioned that. So you could speak a little bit to what that does. I do think that's a huge part of my energy and feeling better and fountain of youth, they call it, and all of that. But, and I had done that. I had actually done an NAD IV in 2018 or 19, like pretty early on. And I'll tell you, it's terrible. The IV is so bad. It's the most uncomfortable thing you've ever done in your life. You feel like you want to die for 90 minutes for 4 days in a row. And where I learned, and I think you heard it on that podcast, that I could start injecting it instead was because COVID happened and Huberman had his office, or the doctor that was on it had his office in California of all places during COVID. So he's like, obviously we couldn't have anyone, come in and do IVs. So what they learned was they figured out people could inject it at home and over time still had the same long-term results. So that's one of the ones I use is the NAD+. But if you want to speak to kind of what you've seen and what you find yourself prescribing and what they do for people.
Yeah. So the first my first introduction to the GLP-1s was about the same time that I started seeing you. So I still wasn't quite a believer. I didn't know if they were truly safe. Long-term use, we weren't quite sure about. But I had a couple of patients, including yourself, that it just seemed like the right way to go. So what these do is they help with insulin resistance, which so many of us have now, and it can be caused by so many different things. But for patients that, say, for example, have you heard of PCOS, right?
Right.
Polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's really rampant right now. I see it a lot.
And what do you think's causing the rampantness? What's in our food? What's in our
I don't. That's the hard
environment?
part.
Yeah, to pinpoint.
GLP-1 is made naturally in the gut.
Right.
Okay. And for some reason, all of us are suffering from GLP-1 deficiency.
Interesting.
And I do believe it's probably driven by our food.
Right.
Okay.
Something out there
Monsanto has taken over.
Yeah.
And it's poisoning our food, where our bodies are disrupted from creating the hormones that they're used to creating. We don't create them in the amounts that we need.
Sure.
So I think that's why we're seeing people that, say, in 1970 would be 135 pounds are now standard 150.
Right.
Right. It's like that much weight difference because our GLP-1 creation is being disrupted.
Yeah,
So-
because I'll see someone who I watch them all day. They don't eat bad. They aren't overeating. They aren't, and
Right.
still nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's going on underlying. And then you'll have other hormone disruptions. But the GLP-1s came up and they've been around a long time.
Right.
But what I liked about what I could do is I could bring the compounded version, because I don't want the brand name, because for one thing, you don't get the extra things that can be compounded into,
Right.
say, a tirzepatide, which is what I do the most of in my office. That one's got some B6, which helps with nausea and some of the other side effects that can come when you do these GLP-1s. But the GLP-1 and the GIP, which is a very long word, I won't say because it'll just be gobbledygook. But it's a dual action peptide injectable once a week, and it's been magic for my females who are insulin resistant, which is PCOS. That's what that is.
Okay.
And it solves that problem, and the weight just falls off on the lowest doses. And they feel great. It stops inflammation. They can think better. It has a lot of cardiovascular benefits. I questioned it. I was hesitant.
Right.
You were
Well,
one of the
because
first ones I put on
you
it. And I
questioned
was
it,
like, am I doing the right thing?
Right.
But it was magic for you. It was magic for a lot of my patients in the beginning. And it's been a big part of my practice ever since. And it's geared for the right people. If you want to lose 5 pounds, 10 pounds, it's not for you.
Right.
If you need to lose 15, 20, 40, 50, I've had some patients lose 60, 70 pounds.
Sure.
And it's life-changing.
Yeah.
And they couldn't have done it because if they didn't get that spark, right? They
Right.
started seeing like 5, 6, 7,
Sure.
8 pounds come off, and they felt a little bit better.
And they're motivated.
They got motivated to work out.
Move around. Yeah.
They ate better.
Absolutely.
They didn't have that food noise. It
Sure.
cuts that food noise out, and it's just made a big difference. So that's that section. And I'm enhancing my practice now, bringing in better equipment to do body analysis and things that can help, because I've been kind of pretty streamlined on all this.
Right.
Because it's usually an adjunct therapy to what I primarily do, which is hormones.
Right.
So the next peptide that's probably one of my most favorite is BPC 157.
Healing for healing.
For healing.
Yeah.
It's body protection compound, and it's mixed.
Now, let me ask you a question. I'm not injured at all.
Yeah.
Should I be on it?
If you're inflamed, yes.
Okay. And how would I know if I'm inflamed?
Well, you can tell through some blood work, but usually you retain fluid. People that kind of they're flushed all the time. They've got the little bumps on the backs of their arms.
Oh, that's
There's some
interesting.
things you can tell.
When I looked like that, I had those bumps. I do
Yeah.
not any longer.
That's
So
a lot of
interesting.
inflammation, which fat carries inflammation. Fat is inflammatory.
Right.
And so, yeah.
So
you can tell a
So
lot.
I don't need it right now.
I think you're fine. I
Okay.
think we've got you.
Listen,
on other
I'll get
things.
on anything. I tell if she tells me to, I'm like, add
think
it
you're
to the syringe. Yeah. Anyway.
So the BPC can be mixed also with something called thymosin beta 4, aka thymosin beta 500, which is a synthesized version. But keep in mind, peptides, for those that may not know what they are long chain amino acids, and they're signaling molecules, and they're completely natural.
Right. And you flush them out. That's why a lot of them are daily, right? Like,
yeah,
you can't like OD on them.
No.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know of any of the major ones that I prescribe frequently that ever cause side effects. They are safe, especially BPC 157. You
Right.
can't get much safer. Even the thymosin alpha 1.
Which is what I'm on, thymosin alpha.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those are for immune remodulation,
Right.
like immune supporting. And then the BPC can fix injuries. I've had a gentleman who couldn't throw the football to his sons because he had torn rotator cuffs from football when he was
Right.
20 years old.
Sure.
His wife injected him for 30 to 60 days with BPC. He could throw the football, didn't need surgery, those types of things.
I have a question as a parent. I clearly, like I said, I have mom guilt. So say my son dives for a baseball and hurts his shoulder. He's 15. Can I give him that?
I've been asked that question so
Yeah.
many times. So remember, the FDA doesn't like peptides. They
Right.
continue to try to keep them off the market
Altogether, right.
altogether. You can find them on websites. I truly caution people not to just go buy them.
Right.
As far as me prescribing a peptide for a child, I would not.
Right.
As the parent, you could.
Get it and do what I want to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not giving me that medical advice, but I just because I
I
don't.
can't give you
What
that
I don't
medical
want
advice.
is to go
I
to an
can't wait
orthopedic.
for this one to get flagged.
Right.
We've
Yeah.
been-
Well, it's to go.
We've been all
to-
over the radar.
I know we have it all over
Red
the radar.
flags,
love
red
it.
flags, shut
love it.
down.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's good. We'll send you the raw footage, people. Well, but that's the thing is, to the point, going back to what we talked about, is we're not allowed to give our kids the things that, I mean, I remember like vividly. My daughter came out of the womb with seasonal allergies. I don't care what anyone says. That was the snottiest kid I've ever seen in my life, out of the womb. And they're like, babies can't have allergies. Babies can't have allergies. Babies don't have seasonal allergies. I went to her 1 year well check. They're like, it's seasonal allergies. Here, you can give her allergy medicine. I'm like, what? Like, I knew that, and she still has it. She still gets them. Now, it might be some side effect from a vaccine that she got or I gave her or whatever. I don't know. But I mean, as soon as my husband starts sneezing, she starts sneezing.
She should take the D-hist.
Well, yeah, and maybe I will. But what I mean is like,
There's supplemental things that she can take to help.
well,
But still,
the point is,
I know a 1-year-old taking
with-
allergy medicine.
right.
That's
Well,
ridiculous.
not only that, but like
Yeah.
that, because the rule says kids can't have allergies until they're 1, but then the second she's 12 months and 1 day old, it's allergies. I'm like, that's kind of like, okay, what if my kid's already through puberty and he's 16 and he's full grown and he has an injury? I can't give him this peptide, but the day he's 18 and a day, it's perfectly legal. That doesn't make sense to me.
No. Well, again, it's protocol medicine.
Right.
And instead of getting to the root cause of why she's having these,
Right.
they're just going to throw a medicine at it, which is
Well-
a Band-Aid. And that's what it really is. And it's unfortunate.
Well, and it's unfortunate
So-
because I can't bring my kids to you.
Yeah. I
You know, they've got these laws in place where you're in trouble if and so instead maybe there's something else out there, but it feels like all we can do to try to help the symptoms, because we don't want them to be uncomfortable and not able to breathe and their shoulder hurts or whatever it is, but
I guide parents a lot on things because I'm a family nurse practitioner, so I can treat all
Everyone.
ages.
Well, that's good to know.
0 to 80, or 90 or 100.
Right.
But
peptides,
with peptides,
there's some
it's
rules.
a different.
Right.
But peptides are probably one of the safest things you
Right.
can give your kid
right?
to heal an injury.
Right.
I would love to. My daughter plays professional volleyball. I would love nothing more than for her to be able to inject BPC into her shoulder because she slams her right shoulder all
Right.
the time playing a game.
Right.
So I would love to do that, but not the NCAA. She's not playing college anymore. But the professional world
League won't let
will
her.
will
They call it
disqualify
drugs.
her.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's an enhancing
Right.
drug.
It's
It
just
is
a
a healing peptide.
Right.
But we aren't allowed to do that. So it's frustrating for us when you've got things that truly help people. People find us, but it's like the things that you could just think of all the injured athletes that can
Right.
get out there and play.
Right.
The top player on a team
It's not
gets hurt.
HGH where it's actually, like you said, enhancing.
Oh yeah, HGH is a whole different
Right,
world.
right.
No, right. But there is a peptide called CJC
Right.
1295, and there's other growth hormone enhancing peptides.
Right. But it makes you grow your own. It's not
Yeah, you produce and release more of your own. You're not giving
Right.
it. And that's what those peptides do. And they're wonderful for
Right.
people that want more muscle tone, better recovery in the gym.
I think I used to be on that one.
yes,
right when
you were
I
at
came
one point.
out of
We tried that before the
thiamosinol.
tirzepatide.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But the CJC with ipamorelin, and then there's sermorelin, then there's tesamorelin. Those are all those growth hormone enhancing peptides that work great.
Right.
And they're great for any age, except for kids.
Right.
But
of course.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But
'Cause that
that's
would help
another
them.
one. So you
Yeah.
asked me the big ones. So the GLP-1s, the BPC, and then the thymosin alpha 1 and the CJC and the ipamorelin. So those are the 4 big ones. And then I get into some of the fun ones like GHK with copper. That one's great for skin, hair,
Right.
and nails.
That's the one we're on.
And
I'm on the dissolvable, right?
dissolvables, and there's an injectable.
I think I want to go to the injectable. It's just easier.
In
know
a
how
lot of
many
ways,
pills I
injections
take?
are easy.
Yeah.
But that's a great one. And I'm trying to think. There's some other ones. There's ones that helps with deep sleep enhancing peptide, helps produce more melatonin.
And again, you're not filling yourself with melatonin. You're
Promoting
making
your body's pineal gland's ability to produce more.
right.
And then there's one that helps with anxiety. There's C-Max
Oh.
and Selank that it's a injectable as well. You also can come in a nasal spray, but it's great for anxiety. I have a patient who literally cannot cross Mansfield Dam. She's so afraid of heights. She drives to my office and can't. She's like a nervous wreck.
Oh
But
my gosh.
on that peptide, a lot of her anxiety, it's like one of those instantaneous things
Yeah.
that helps right away.
Well, that's
They're interesting.
That's
They're
good to know.
They're super fun to do.
What about ADHD? Is there one that helps with that? I know they're working on one I saw, but have you found anything yet that helps with that kind of stuff? Because I don't like.
Well, that is one of them that can help.
Okay, because I don't like the feeling of being high on meth, which is what ADHD medicine basically is.
Yeah, it's a stimulant
Yeah.
medication, right? And it's so bad for you.
And you crash, and it literally changes your chemistry. That was a whole other. I've listened to a lot of podcasts. There is a whole other one about that, like how it literally changes your physiological makeup, and it can take a long time to get it back if you of weaning
And
off
it
of
messes with your testosterone levels.
Ah,
It lowers it.
well, let's talk about that. So you said you'd
Yeah.
work with hormones. Those are the peptides. You also work with hormones. Yeah, great segue. Ladies, if you want to save your marriage, let's talk.
Talk about hormones.
We didn't know we were going to get into this. So yeah, let's talk about, you said the main thing for your practice is hormones. So someone, and you don't have to use any one, mix up a patient, make a patient up out of thin air, but someone walks in, what's the typical issues they have hormonally?
Oh gosh. Wow. Well, it's so interesting. Yeah, he's got this up right now, like the low testosterone symptoms in men. But yeah, those are all very common. But I mean, if you're talking about a female, we're looking at basically most women walk in with abnormal weight gain in the belly fat, like
Sure.
the additional belly fat. They can't sleep, hot flashes. They're moody. Their cycles are all messed up. They have no libido, zero interest
Right.
in sex, just none.
Right. Like I said, save your marriage.
And they're
Tune in.
and they're chronically fatigued.
Yes.
Um,
Well, and that's a part of it, right? It's like, if I can't wait to get to sleep at night, I'm definitely not looking to jump in the bed with you. So.
Right. And some of the other things, like we've got things like, you can't think clearly.
Yeah.
You can't remember why you walked into a room. Lots of vaginal dryness. I mean, painful sex is a big thing. And that is so easy to fix. I mean,
Yeah.
so it depends on your age, but I usually start seeing women for perimenopause symptoms, which can be, the big ones are the irregular periods. They've got the belly fat. They can't sleep and moody. Those are usually in their 30s and no sex drive because your testosterone levels start to drop. Give them a little testosterone and most all of those issues disappear.
Right.
For some women, testosterone, it's like it's your well-being hormone.
Right.
and it gives you energy and motivation to get off the couch.
I would
Right.
100% agree with that. That was, so you got me on that about a little over a year after everything else.
Yeah, we did everything else first.
Yeah, and I would say, like, talk about the icing on the cake, because I came in, I was like, I feel better, I've lost weight, I'm this, but I'm just not me still yet. And once we looked at that and did that, it's like all of game change. I mean, I didn't have all of those symptoms, but I had enough of them to know something was off. And when we checked those levels, in fact, they were, and they had dropped since even the last time I'd seen you. And it's like wild to me when I talk to my friends now that say things like, ugh, my husband wants to have sex with me. Sorry, James. Girl talk.
It's okay.
But,
I've heard it all by now.
yeah. Oh, God, he wants to have sex with me. I'm like, yeah, that's probably a good thing. Y'all been married 20 years. At least he wants to have sex with you and not someone else, right? Like, so maybe do that. But then I think back to like 2-3 years ago, I'm like, I was probably the exact same way, actually. But, it's just,
it saves a lot of marriages, I will say.
I tell everyone.
Yeah, it saves a lot of marriages because it's natural. It happens.
Right.
When the testosterone levels drop, that is the one hormone that when that's gone, we have no libido. And it's not a woman's fault. It's just the way it is. But then you feel guilty.
Right.
But I'm sorry. I don't
But
I want to have sex with
but
you.
it's
I
not
love you, but I don't want to have sex with you.
And of course,
no matter what
it's
you
not
say.
you, it's me is the famous line.
Right,
and
it's not
every
you, it's
man's
me.
like,
yeah, whatever.
Well, and they can't get it. They're like, I would have sex with a wall right now. What are you talking
I
about?
know.
Like, we don't care.
Yeah.
So, to try to explain that is,
But it does flip the switch.
Yeah.
And it gets that engine
well,
going.
and men can take it too. So, like,
Oh,
let's
yeah.
be clear. You see men and women, not
I
just
do.
women. And there's plenty of reasons to give men the testosterone. I'm sure that's a list as well. What are some of those that they need to look for? Some of the same stuff?
Yeah, very similar, honestly. And a lot of times the things
Has a man ever lost his sex drive?
yes, I actually do.
Did you just copy paste? Because that doesn't feel right now.
Well, the thing with most men is they have that sex drive, but they can't perform.
Gotcha.
Right. Or they'll have trouble performing. It's not like it used to be.
Right.
But for them, mostly it's motivation and belly fat. Those two are the big ones. They just don't want to work. They get depressed.
Yeah.
And it is a well-being hormone for both sexes.
Right.
But for men, they're just so easy. I give them testosterone and they're usually happy.
Right.
Happy as can be, and they might need a little thyroid and they're good to go.
And for a man, would you recommend the pellet or the shot? Because I have male friends that they prefer the shot or they take the shot. And I almost feel like anything with a guy, it's easier. So you could just give them a shot and be on their way, and it'll probably work better than
The modalities, they work the same.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. Whatever works for that person. Some of my guys love pellets because they don't have to think about it for 5 or 6 months.
Right.
But for some guys, they don't mind the injections.
Right.
And you can travel with them.
What is that, once a week or something?
Twice a week. Once a week, you're going to get too big of a rise and too big of a crash.
Gotcha.
And then your body's going,
And
wait,
you're doing
what?
it all the time. Yeah.
Wait, what? What? You give me all this testosterone?
So
For
you
a
do.
man who doesn't know, explain the pellet.
Oh, the pellets. Okay, so pellets are highly compressed bioidentical testosterone that are pushed into like Tic Tac size pellets. They're white and they are implanted subcutaneously into the fat. In males, I do the flank because that's where their fat is, the love handles. So I come back here and I place them in there. It's a painless procedure. It takes 10 minutes. But those pellets are so highly compressed that it takes them 5 to 6 months to completely absorb. So you get that blood flow by the pellet and it's slowly released day in and day out.
Yeah.
And so
And there's different doses, depending on what you need.
I dose you using a scientific algorithm. I have a dosing platform that I use that I plug in all your lab work and your symptoms and your weight and your height. And it's very scientific and I get a pretty accurate dose. And then I make adjustments based on symptom relief.
Right. Well, and if you're on anything else. So I think she gave me the dose that science said to give, and we started on the low side, right? Because you'd rather...
I was cautious.
Yeah, you'd rather be cautious first.
Yep.
Like she said, we titrate everything. And over the last year, I think I've been on it since last March. So a year, you go in, for females, again, quarterly, not 5 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Just like just like Botox. Everyone else in my life can go 6 months. I have to go like every 6 weeks. I'm a very animated person. But anyway, I have to see like 3 different providers, so I never have wrinkles. But but so I go in quarterly, and we've only had to bump it up once, and been great. And that keeps me like every 12. It's supposed to be a 12-week window. So the first one, when it was lower, and when I, to her point, you know how she said she doesn't want you doing this. When it ran out, you could tell it ran out. You know, you start to get a little lethargic and things slow down, and not like, it's not a huge crash, but if I looked up and was like, you know, it's not been 1 day of this, it's been like 3. And you know, as a female, you're like, I'm about to start my period. I'm about to have I eaten?
Look
have
at
I
the
slept?
calendar. Oh,
Right.
I'm due for my pellet.
Right. And it's like, oh, I'm 8 days out.
Yeah.
Now we know, okay, let's raise it a little bit so I don't have this 2.5 week lull next time.
Right.
So,
but pellets are, they've been around for 100 years, and they were started in Europe, and they somehow made it to the United States. Took a while, but pellets have been around for decades here. It's just, I think the word's getting out now and they're not for everyone. I mean, some people don't want that procedure. It's painless, but they just don't like that.
right. I mean, it
And they'll
leaves
go
a little
for
mark on
creams.
your butt.
Yeah, just a little mark. But you have patients that love creams. You can do testosterone cream.
Right.
Applied males, females. For females, I do estradiol cream. You can do cream, tablets, pellets.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's 3 key hormones for women: the progesterone, the estrogen, and the testosterone. But the estrogen's only for a menopausal woman.
Right.
Perimenopause, if you're still having periods, you do not get estrogen. That would be just a train wreck.
Right. Yeah.
We stick with 2 things: progesterone and testosterone.
Yeah. So that's common in your hormone practice, both of those. And then is there anything else and then you said thyroid typically?
I treat a lot of thyroid, and I treat a lot of PCOS. That is something that I'm doing a lot of. I guess my name got out on a Facebook group or something, and I've gotten a lot of patients that have been helped quite a bit just because.
And that's the GLP-1 you're saying?
Yes, that's helpful for it. That is one of the root or foundational treatments, but there's things like, you know, usually if you've got PCOS, where you've got irregular menstruation, you're, you know, kind of grow a lot of hair on your face, you tend to be overweight, you're infertile, you have a high risk of breast cancer and uterine cancer, but you struggle to lose weight. That's the insulin resistance.
Right.
But then that insulin resistance leads to other things like the infertility, which comes from low progesterone.
Right.
So they will have.
Yeah, one time you told me it's the baby making drug. I was like, I am interested in no babies. Luckily, my husband took care of that for us. But I was like, hold on, you didn't tell me that when you put me on this. And
well, progesterone though it is the pregnancy hormone, but it's also the hormone that protects. It's your sleeping pill.
Right. Yes.
You will go to sleep. If you can't sleep, that's the first thing I put you on.
Right.
And it protects your breast, your bones, your brain. And it keeps the lining of the uterus in check.
And it's very important to know you have to do it right, because over-the-counter progesterone is dangerous, like the synthetic, right?
Oh, yes. It's just
There is
like synthetic
synthetics,
thyroid.
right.
You don't want synthetic progesтерone, which is progestin. And that's what's in all the birth control pills, by the way.
Yeah.
It's
all
the
of
fake.
those. It's also, you can buy, to your point, I want to say, one time I went into my OBGYN and the nurse practitioner was like, I was like, man, I just want to like kill everyone all the time. I don't know if I'm just surrounded by dumb people, or not really kill, but you know, I was like, everybody's just making me crazy. I was like, am I premenopause? She's like, you're 34. You're not premenopause. I was like, okay, well, why is that? Maybe I have, what's the extreme PMSD, like PMSD?
Yes. PMDD, I think it's
Yeah,
called.
PMD, where like, and that, I was like, maybe I have that, but everyone's just irritating me, which is also, that was actually the root cause. I got on ashwagandha and now I'm fine, and it doesn't bother me as much. But she was like, oh, well, why don't we give you baby Prozac? This is from an OBGYN. Why don't we give you baby Prozac if people start to, if you're bothered, and that'll make you not care. I was like, that feels weird. And then she also recommended I potentially get a progestin cream, and that would help with if I did have PPMD or whatever it was. And I was like, I bought both, and I think I took a baby Prozac once, and I was like, I will never do this again.
Yeah, Prozac, I can't tell you how many patients I work very hard to get off of it. And Prozac is usually another Band-Aid that you never needed to begin with if you'd had progesterone.
Right.
If you took oral progesterone, that's all you need to take.
Right.
Micronized, compounded, real progesterone. I don't prescribe anything that is synthetic. Only a couple of medications do I ever prescribe, and it's only if necessary.
Sure.
Like a spironolactone for acne.
Right.
Those kinds of things, if that's an issue. But I stay away from it. If you're on a blood pressure medicine when you come in, I won't touch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I won't touch it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I have a friend who, and I don't think she'll mind me sharing, but that's what got her looking at her own hormones. She's younger than me, but her mom, they thought she was clinically depressed. She was on depressants, all the things. And then finally someone said, why don't you have your hormones looked at? And she's like never been on anything ever again and is just on progesterone and a couple other things. And it's like saved her life, like was like very in a dark, dark, dark place. And that's all it was. And people don't realize or because they, again, didn't ask the right questions, didn't know the questions you ask. And you go to your doctor and say, here's how I feel. Doc, I'm putting on all this weight. This is my example. I've put on all this weight. I don't feel good. I think something's wrong. It hurts, physically hurts to get out of bed in the morning. Oh, you can't get out of bed? That's not what I said, by the way. I said it physically hurts to get out of bed. Oh, you can't get out of bed? Then I think you might be depressed. Fill out this chart and we'll get you on some medication. And I walked out. And I've never been back.
Yeah, I know. I think those of us in this field, we are, we constantly have to be warriors with our shields and our swords because the medical boards and the nursing board and the pharmacists aren't our friends. I mean, I'll prescribe. During COVID, I couldn't even prescribe ivermectin, and CVS would not fill it if I said it was for COVID. They would only fill it if I said it was for scabies. So those are the kinds of things, and I worry
whenever the pharmacist is like, do you need to talk about this medication? I'm like, nope, I have a doctor for that or a nurse practitioner for that. I don't need to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Because same. Like, I mean, when I have friends who've been drug reps. Like, I know what they got paid and what they were taught and how they were taught to, the whole, we can get on this, but we've talked about it a little bit with my dad when my dad and I were on, but, the whole opioid crisis, literally doctors were being trained by the drug company, not by any medical anything. They were being taught how to use the drug by the drug company.
Well, the size of the cabinet in the closet in the medical practices I was doing my clinical rotations in as a nurse practitioner, the closets are full of drugs, and the drug reps are making their rotations through the practice clinic. What can I drop off for you? What kind of samples can I leave? It's just, it's in their face all the time.
Right, and I'll bring you and your staff free lunch and tickets to the NBA game or whatever to do it. Yeah, I mean it's a whole racket for sure.
But we worry.
The Sackler family.
Right, the Sackler family. Right. We've all, if you don't know about the Sackler family, you should do some research.
Right.
Or
watch any
so
of the documentaries about them.
Right. Yeah. There's a Dr. Mary Bowden, for example. She is a amazing doctor who during COVID was completely disintegrated. I mean, she fought against the narrative, and now she's testifying in front of the Senate and doing all these things. But she's like one of those that she spoke out on social media against certain things. Like, I have to be careful what I say about peptides because I even had, let me go back to her. She was basically shut down, and they tried to take her license to practice because she was saying, don't get the COVID shots.
Right.
And I treat COVID, and this is what you need.
Right.
But then, I had
then
on
they
my
wouldn't
website,
have been able to make, what is it, Paxlovid.
Oh, right.
Now we have
Paxlovid,
Paxlovid to treat COVID.
which has interactions with 500 different medications.
Right. Yeah. You
So-
put it in, it's like ding, 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 ding. You can't take any of these, but you can take your Paxlovid.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was going to share the story of I probably think it was 6 months ago. I suddenly get this email from the credit card processor that I use with my electronic health record system, and it says, "You've been flagged. We, starting in 2 weeks, unless you take, you've got something wrong with your website. If you don't take this off your website, we're going to stop processing your credit card, your
Payments.
Yeah, your payments." And I was like, "What?"
And you're thinking like, oh, it's a tech glitch. Surely.
I called my
Like your
EHR
IT
company
guy,
and I
you're
said,
like,
"What is this about?"
Yeah.
And he proceeded to tell me, you're like the second or third practice this week, and we're hearing this a lot. We're trying to find another credit card processor, but I won't say the name of the processor, but they basically know that I had peptides on my website, that I do them, that I offer them.
And why should they care?
Because the bank was told by whoever in Big Pharma runs the bank that they're rolling their money through, that any practice that you come across that does this alternative therapy with peptides
We'll pull our money if you don't shut them down.
you will not be able to process their transactions. And I was like,
see, people, if you don't think it's all
It should be
propaganda,
illegal.
a racket,
So,
connected.
I know that you've been rolling through my website, but I used to have peptides up there. Somehow there's still there. I must still be little bots out there that know I do peptides through Google, but my website, I cannot put them back on. Wow. And they also wanted me to take all my nutraceuticals off, and I basically got away around that. But I was not the only practice they're doing this with.
That's crazy.
So the credit card processors are even.
I was wondering why I couldn't find the peptides on your site when I was looking for all that stuff.
I had to take them down. There's a lot of stuff I do that I cannot put on that website.
So bad.
Yeah.
It's so
Stuff-
first
It should be illegal.
right. So you're not just censored of what you can put online and say, but now we're literally censored from doing our business.
Yeah, they were going to stop my ability to take money,
Right.
or to process payments and make a living.
Because the peptides are taking money out of the pharmaceutical companies' pockets.
Because they're making people healthy.
'Cause
Forget the fact that you're no longer buying their medicine because you've I no longer buy levothyroxine because I buy from a compound. I'm still spending money, by the way, but from a compounding pharmacy that's not trying to keep me sick, right?
Well,
But also because I'm not sick, I don't have all these other symptoms that would cause me to have to buy all these other medications because of the peptides. The peptide that I take, I've done a lot of research on it, thymosin alpha. There are studies that show it has proven to fight off cancer cells. Your immune system is actually working for you. And the reason why I wanted to get on it is I'm the kind of person, knock on wood, I don't have the time or the luxury to be sick and be down and out with what I do in my life and my time. Guess what? Knock on wood, I haven't been since getting on NAD and thymosin alpha. And that was, getting back on those was in August. And we had one of the worst flu and RSV seasons of the entire, and in a decade. My whole family had it, and I walked out unscathed. So
yeah, and I wish these therapies were the price of Advil.
Right. Well, and that's the thing.
You
not.
pay for what you get, right? You
Right.
eat good food, you're going to pay more.
Right.
You get good medicine, good therapies, natural therapies. It's not.
But like with
it's not a 5 and dime, unfortunately.
No,
I wish
but
it was more affordable.
For me, with the thyroid, right? Well, and that should tell you something.
Right.
If I can get 90 days of synthetic thyroid for $10, something's wrong.
Right. I know they make it cheap and easy, just like fast food.
Right. And then, but right now I pay $90. It was about $98, I think, for 90 days worth. And I'm like, $1 a day to not feel like absolute crap, sign me up. And that's where I say, and that's why I say to everyone, I think, especially as your kids get older and you're not worried about diapers and formula and all those things, at least for me, and I know some of my friends too, you start to realize like your health is your wealth. What does it matter? I've talked about this before, like on my social media. What does it matter if, I take really great care of my kids and my family now, but I'm so unhealthy later in life and I don't have long-term care covered or things like that, that I become a burden on them then when they're at the age where they want to live their best life and take care of their family and their kids. And now I'm a burden on them. Like that's not how I want to set anyone up. And so I just think people need to realize, if the choice is $20 extra or $50 extra for longevity, feeling better longer, living well longer, you can't get that back, because what it'll cost you down the line for whatever sickness you might run into, the cancer you could get, the autoimmune disease that's being created by all the crap we're either eating or taking or whatever, you can't, there's no dollar amount you can put on that.
No, you're right. And, it's kind of, a catch-22 for me sometimes, because I do have patients that unfortunately I can't treat because they don't they're not able to afford. I don't charge an arm and a leg for my services,
No,
but
you don't.
but I am a cash practice,
Right.
and I don't take insurance. But it does break my heart when I lose a patient here or there because they can't afford that $90 one 200 milligram progesterone capsule they need to take at night.
Right.
And I'm like, but I can't do anything about that.
Right.
But
And that's what they charge. And
Yeah.
of course, insurance isn't going to help
No.
because they're part of Big Pharma.
in compounded pharmacies, unfortunately, insurance will not cover anything compounded. Just so
Right.
you know,
Right.
Because people ask me that a lot. But I guess something that I kind of wanted to touch on, which would be really nice to maybe show people, is a couple of places. Maybe we could go to a couple of alternative therapies
Okay.
that maybe people don't know much about.
Sure.
And he could bring up a website or two that.
Sure.
Now I'm not giving medical advice.
Right. This is education,
on this
not
show.
advice.
This is education only.
Right.
But if you want to go to dmsostore.com, store.com. Yep. This has been something that I have just been so excited about. I've been using this on myself, and it's helped a patient of mine who has horrible neuropathy because he was on a testosterone blocking medication for prostate cancer that basically gave him diabetes and cardiovascular disease.
But you don't have prostate cancer
So you don't
anymore,
have prostate cancer, but you've got all these other problems.
that are going to be with you forever.
50
Yeah.
pounds, yeah. So I will tell you that if you want to do some research on something that is a hidden gem, this is DMSO. DMSO is dimethyl sulfoxide, and it is something that I want you to, again, research. But it's a solvent from wood pulp that actually does miraculous things for our bodies. It is also anti-cancer. I apply it topically. I've been treating myself for precancers of my forehead, and I swear my face looks so much better in a matter of 2 weeks, twice daily using this stuff.
So if you'll scroll up for me, James,
Go out.
you just to the product
So
itself. Yeah.
that right there, that's the rose. Go to one that doesn't have that one. It's okay.
The glass bottle.
The one with the aloe vera gel, the second one in right there.
Click on that guy.
For example, that is the one that I've been using, and you can put it on
You just roll it on your face.
roll it on your face, roll it on your skin. It absorbs through the skin, but let me caution you, anytime you do anything with this, you've got to have clean, dry skin.
Okay.
Because it will drive anything on your skin into it.
Okay.
So you have to have clean skin. But when you look into this, it treats like osteoarthritis, burns. You can use it for cancer.
I mean, and it's $16. Just keep it in your house.
$16.
Yeah.
You can also take it internally. I will not tell you how to do that.
Right.
I'm not going to do that here. But you can do so many things with this, and it's been amazing for, I will say, someone close to you actually has been using it.
Nice.
So, and it's helpful for like aches and pains.
Yeah.
I had a horrible backache last week. I could barely move. I think I twisted wrong or something in a workout, and I put that on my back, and I was fine after 2 applications.
Wow.
And I didn't do anything special other than add additional stretching.
Right.
But this is one of those things where
Buy it while you can before they shut it down.
I've been pointing a lot of patients to it, but another website with another wonderful thing is go to, let's see if I can get you to find this, Andreas Kalker, Kal. Don't do a space between him. Oh, fine. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Kal, Cker. Okay.
Okay. Well, search his name right there.
Try his name. Let's see what we find. I'll tell you, are you using Google or you're using something else? Good.
It's Brave. I can go Google.
No, Brave.
No,
No.
no.
I want you to do Brave.
Oh, scroll down. I think I saw it.
One more time.
There. Right there. CDS.
Yeah, there you go. CDS protocols right
Second
there in
one
the
right
middle.
now.
Right there.
See.
It's literally his name.com. And they're
There it is.
Yeah.
They're
Okay.
literally Brave's even doing it.
They're hiding it.
Yeah.
I wonder why Brave is doing it.
Okay. So this
Again.
This is a protocol that I have used for people with horrific asthma.
Oh.
So And it's worked well, literally by pouring some of this chlorine dioxide, which I will tell you, you just need to understand what it does. And it is not chlorine. Okay.
Right.
This is not chlorine.
This is not the people who did the fish tank stuff during COVID.
Well, but that is what Trump was talking about this.
Right. Right.
Not chlorine.
Right. That's
But
my
chlorine-
point is not smart people. Yeah.
Chlorine
Be
dioxide.
educated. Be educated.
Yeah, and hydroxychloroquine is
Right.
what you can take for COVID and rheumatoid arthritis. But this particular thing, they call it the miracle mineral solution. And it is like one of those things where I take it myself. I've applied it to skin cancer and it has gotten rid of it. I have, you pour some of this in a bowl, the chlorine dioxide is in a room where are having a respiratory distress, and it will help your lungs. You can drink it in different solutions. This guy will teach you exactly what it is. This man is a hero.
But they've hidden him on page 3 of
Yes.
his own name search.
But I suggest people just watch these videos, learn about him. I think
he's German.
He's
I saw.
German.
Yeah.
And I use right there, you'll say for oral use, it's the
Dilute it,
3,000
yeah.
parts per million, 0.3. I buy it that way,
So
ready made.
you don't even have to mess with it.
Because you can make this stuff. It's simple and cheap. But you can make this, and it can do anything from help you with go back, James, to the protocol page. And I want you to go to the U protocol. See the protocols at the top?
The drop down.
And see the blue? Yeah, there you go. There's different protocols. Go to
So-
protocol U.
So hover again and go all the way.
Yeah, it won't let you. There you go.
There you go. Protocol U.
There's a child protocol. There's a derm protocol. Protocol U is what I had a family member do.
Yeah.
And you do 6 mils of it in 200 mils of water every couple of hours during a severe situation, and it helps. It helps with, it's really kind of a miracle cure. In fact, NASA knew all about this, and they know about this, and it's hidden.
Of course.
So just if you're watching and you're interested in learning about something, you could give this to a patient. Like there's even a terminal protocol. Like if someone is terminal with cancer or any sickness, you give this and they might have a chance.
Right. Again, what if you are one of the 2 of 10, not the 8 and 10? Right.
Right. So
It's
all
a
those
risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a friend who her husband was in ICU about to die from liver cirrhosis. And I wish I'd gotten to her
Sooner.
a month sooner.
Right.
Might have saved him. I don't know. But
Right.
he ended up passing away, and she got it to him just too late.
Yeah.
Protocol U?
T.
No, that one was T. That's terminal.
Yeah.
So they all have a different C, I'm guessing, is child, is what you're saying?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Or a P for pediatric. I can't remember. But these are things, now these are protocols that you
very specific.
you also don't
to-
want to be on vitamin C or a high antioxidant when you're on this. So there's a lot of things you need to learn before you just go out and do it.
Right. And that's the problem, right? Is you have one couple who, bought chlorine or grabbed it out of their backyard for their pool and said, "Oh, it's hydroxychloroquine." Yeah. And then the whole world's like, it doesn't work, right? Obviously, use some education and thought behind
But
all of it.
go to protocol C, and this is the common protocol. This is the one that I do.
The
I
most,
I
yeah.
probably do this once or twice a week. I put 10 mils of it in a liter of water. You always have to have a dark glass. You can never put this in metal.
Okay.
But it's a dark glass. I keep it in the fridge, and I drink 10 mils over, every hour
Just
over the
to
day.
do it, just to keep you.
It's antiviral, antibacterial. You get a yeast infection, you can use this stuff directly on the yeast infection. It's pretty
Interesting.
amazing stuff.
Right.
I mean, they call it the universal antidote.
It's like, and all the comic stories, the antidote. It turns out this is all it was the whole time.
So,
By the way, this episode will also be on X and Rumble, because it will be pulled from YouTube, I'm sure.
Rumble.
Yeah.
I love Rumble.
If you if
that's
you need us, you need
my-
to find us.
issues, yeah.
So, And then that's all that is. That's surviving, not thriving, which is why I love the name of your practice being
thank
Thrive,
you.
right? Because again, it speaks to longevity, thriving. Like we can all live, right? We're all going to survive to a certain point, but that's not a way to live, right? Like who wants to just survive?
Quality of life and living your life to its fullest and being as healthy as you can. We're all going to get sick at some point.
Right.
It's our way of eliminating toxins.
Right.
But it's just...
That's the other thing is people think I have to get rid of all inflammation. Not all inflammation is bad. It's just knowing when it is being caused, and that was another thing in the podcast, but when it is being caused by the wrong things to eliminate it. But sometimes inflammation is necessary because it's what it's doing. It's fighting off whatever.
Your body is sending the messengers
knowing
to
the
call
difference.
in the army to
having
win
the gut
battle.
health, the probiotics, the things like that that are doing those things. And we're taking all these medications that are absolutely destroying our gut, which leads to so much more. And we could do a whole podcast
Oh my gosh,
on that.
I know.
And maybe we will one day.
The gut is really where it all starts. You're right. And that's a great topic to do someday because there are so many things that people can do because all the serotonin, for example, most of the serotonin you make is made in the gut.
Right.
So depression and the brain and
it
the
all
gut connection
goes together.
So that's a whole other topic. But
and we'll
so
get
right.
there. But I just want to, for anyone who's watching, if they did want to find you, it's Thrive Wellness Austin is your Instagram.
Yes. Gosh, you do that better than I do.
Well, I just looked at it today. I cheated a little bit. But Thrive Wellness Austin is her Instagram, and she does put up some more videos where she talks about things. I saw you just got a new red light therapy bed.
I'm so excited about
that's
it.
very exciting. Her website, again, she's being censored because big government reigns, but you can also go to her website,
Thrive
which
Hormonal
is
Health.
Thrive Hormonal Health. She is located in Lakeway if you're here in the Austin, Central Texas area off 620. And I'll say it again, she saved my life. I'm probably healthier and happier than I've been since I was 20 and had no care in the world. And probably even still healthier than even that, thinking back to all the things I was doing back then. But, she's a wealth of information. She's amazing. And thank you for what you're doing. And for anyone else out there, providers practicing like this, trying to help us learn and ask questions and learn more, we are thankful for you. We're grateful for you. I hope, we joke, the whole term was the red wave was coming when we were trying to change things politically. I hope call this the green wave or something that feels healthy. But hopefully this
why my
wave
color's green. I love
that's
that
right.
color.
Hopefully this wave of health practitioners who are looking to stop being censored and shut down and eliminated and quieted. I really do hope y'all rise up for all of our sakes, but especially for my children, because the idea that I can take a peptide in my shoulder if it's hurt, but my 15-year-old son can't seems insane to me. So I hope one day we get past all of that for our future, and I hope we stop devolving and continue evolving, or maybe we need to devolve back to natural medicines. Maybe that's it. I think sometimes we confuse evolution and change doesn't always mean better.
Right.
Sometimes we're adding things in. Yeah, that's right. Back to, like you said, God gave us everything we need to cure every disease we could come up with. So I'm grateful for people like you who want us to use those things. So thank you for being here.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
You're a wealth of information. We could do it again easily, and maybe we will.
So I appreciate the opportunity to share.
Yes, appreciate you.